In this video, we will talk about how we can learn a new skill within a short period of time. So in older times, it was easily possible to learn a specific subject and get a job based on that, and people could spend their lives with that particular job. But as you would have noticed that in recent times, it has become extremely important to be able to learn a new subject, a new skill within a short time and update ourselves for the new job or for the old job, but if you need any additional skills in that. So here we'll talk about one book that is called Ultralearning, and this book is written for this specific topic, that how we can learn new skills in a short time. So the author of the book, who is Scott Young, he himself used the similar approach and he was able to finish MIT's computer science undergrad course within a span of 1 year, and that is not by going into MIT. That was just by using the online resources that are available on MIT's website. So these resources included videos, notes, and also the papers, the exam papers for those subjects, and he utilized all those resources to finish the entire course within a span of 1 year. Now in the book there are other examples also. There are other people who have achieved similar feats, learned a new language in 3 months, designed a whole video game within a short time. So by looking at all these people, he found that there is a common framework. There are extra steps also, but there is a basic common framework that all of them follow to learn these new skills. So this book is about this framework, and I'm pretty sure all of us can benefit from this basic framework. I'm personally trying to apply it in my life, so I thought it would be beneficial for you also. So there are these 9 principles, or you can say steps, that are given in this book, and these form this basic framework that can be used. Now if I talk about all these steps here, then it will become a very long video, so I am picking up the steps that are extremely important, and I think I personally did mistake in learning new things in the past, and a similar feedback I get from other students also. So if you can work on these aspects while you are learning anything, then it will be very helpful. So the first step or principle, if you call it, in this process is meta learning. Now meta learning is similar to drawing a map. So if you want to navigate some area and we have no information about it and we directly jump into navigating that area, then it might be very difficult for us. We'll be making a lot of mistakes. But instead of directly jumping, if we draw a map of that area, even if it is a rough map, then it will be helpful for us in navigating that space more efficiently. Meta learning is learning about what we are going to learn. Let's say if you want to learn coding, then why do you want to learn it? Do you want to make apps? Do you want to build websites? For these specific applications, we will need to learn more specific things. If we are not clear about our goal or what we want to do, then we may spend time in learning something that is not directly related to the skill or for the application for which we want to learn it in the first place. Like for the example of coding, if we are learning the theory related to data structures and basically we want to build apps or we want to create websites, then it will not be beneficial to learn theory. We should be more interested in practice and actually directly doing the projects, so that can be efficient in that way. So that is the most basic part, the why of this question, that why we actually want to learn this, what is the application for which we want to have this skill. Now apart from that, we should also find out the resources we will use to learn this skill. These resources can include some particular books, YouTube channels or blogs, whatever method you are following for learning. It should include all these resources. So if you are considering some books, then apart from the books, you should also have some alternative resources, like it can be some channels or it can be some other websites, but there should be some alternatives also, because while you're learning, it will be highly likely that you will get stuck at some part and you will need some help. So there should be alternatives available. And you also need to take care of the practice part, because even if you are writing exams or if you are learning any software, if you are learning to code, in all these aspects practice plays the most important role. Then apart from these basic things, you need to give a specific time, let's say time duration. You can say that you are going to spend 3 months, you are going to spend 6 months, or even it could be just a month of time. So you need to allocate that time, and based on that you need to design your own timetable. Once you find out the total duration, then the next step is to decide the weekly or daily time that you will be giving for that learning. And the next principle here is focus. So focus is definitely very important when we are trying to learn anything or while trying to do anything at all. So there are various problems that you may encounter. So there can be 3 possible problems according to this book related to focus. So first one, that you are finding it difficult to start the process. If you want to solve some questions, or if you want to practice or even read the material, then you are finding to just have the focus to start that process. So that is the first type. Then the second type can be that you are finding it difficult to sustain it. And the third type is when you need to figure out what is the right kind of focus for a particular skill. So failing to start, that is, as we also call it, procrastination. So it can be there due to various reasons. Now to counter this procrastination, you can tell yourself that you will only practice this skill for 5 minutes and give yourself little bit ease in the starting, or you can say try to reduce the friction in the process, and once you start it, it will be more likely that you will stay on that track, and slowly you can increase the learning time. Then the next problem is failing to sustain the focus. So sustaining the focus, it is related to avoiding or reducing the distractions. So these distractions can be internal or external. External distractions mean the distractions in your environment, like if you have your mobile around and it is constantly ringing or some message is coming, then that can be a problem. Similarly, if you are not in a very noise-free environment, then that can be a problem. So you need to figure out what all are these problems and find the solutions for that to whatever extent it is possible for you. Like you can find the time of the day where it is quiet or other people are not disturbing. Phone you can try to keep in out of your reach, and in that way you will not be distracted by that. Then there are some internal issues also, like you might be having some problems in your life and sometimes it will not be possible to focus. So in that case you need to find out that can you solve that problem, or is it something that you cannot do anything about, and in that case you will need to ignore it and try to bring your focus back to the work. And the third problem is right kind of focus. So in this book they say that there are 2 types of focus, narrow focus and broad focus. Some problems require narrow focus where you need not concentrate on multiple things, but you need to concentrate on 1 or 2 things and keep your mind free otherwise. The second type of focus, that is broad focus. Broad focus means that you need to keep your mind open and think about in all the possible ways. So that can be helpful while you are trying to solve some maths problem, or if you are trying to learn to code. In such cases it will be better to have broad focus. Then the next principle here is directness, and I think this is a very important principle and something that you should always keep in mind. Directness means that whatever we are trying to learn, we are directly approaching that. Like if you are writing some competitive exam and if you are spending most of your time in just reading theory, then that is not direct approach. Direct approach will mean that you are solving as many questions and as many questions that have come in the exam and learning through that, because in the exam itself you will be required to solve questions, not answer some theoretical questions. So directness in that way is a very important skill. Even in learning other things like coding or any software skill, you might be interested in reading the manual, or you might be interested in reading the theory related to those topics, but that will not be helpful when you are trying to solve the actual problem. We get better at solving actual problems by solving those problems rather than finding other ways. Now there are certain ways in which you can apply this directness. So there can be project based learning, there can be immersive learning, there can be this overkill approach. So these approaches are mentioned in this book. For the directness, project based learning, as the name is suggesting, that we pick up projects to learn that skill. Immersive learning means that we are putting ourselves in an environment where the skill is practiced. So this kind of learning can be beneficial when you are trying to learn a language. So if you are in a place where only that language is used, then you will be pressurized to use that language itself. So that can be a way. Overkill approach means being in a high demand situation. So in these places you will be expected to perform, and if the downside is low, if you are not losing anything in such situations, then you learn quite faster. So you can apply these methods for your learning. And the next principle here is drill. Drill means to work on our weakest parts. So for any skill, and as we are trying to do a project or however we are trying to learn, we will need to identify what are the weakest parts there and separate those weak parts and practice them separately if it is possible, or practice them but give them more time. So in different ways we can work on these weakest parts, because these weakest parts can reduce the overall speed or the rate at which you are learning the new skill. So you need to isolate these parts. So first of all, you will need to identify and isolate and practice those parts more than the other parts. So I think these are the most important principles when we are learning anything new. The other principles that are mentioned here, like retrieval, retention, feedback, they become more important as we are getting better at those skills, and we still need to improve. So retrieval and retention I have talked in another video where I talked about the learning methods. So those learning methods are applicable in any field. So as such, whatever I am discussing here, these are things that all of us know, but when we are learning something new, to have this framework in mind is really beneficial, because once we start learning, we may be lost and we may not find out what are the specific issues. We may get frustrated in the process and stop the learning completely. So it is better to understand this framework so that we can apply it in any situation. When you are learning any new skill, this can be applied. So I hope you found this video useful. If you have any questions or if you want to add anything to this, you can write down in the comments and let me know, and we'll be coming with more such videos in the future.